the things in.
I don't even know. It's time. It's fine. So fucking tired. Would you like? Well, we just up here. Not come back after we're doing Q&A. We can just sit up here.
Deal.
Deal.
Does anyone need the QR code before I go? Don't forget, sign out sheets right up here at the table we were sitting at if you leave early. Does anyone need that QR code though? Here, do you need me to make it bigger, Bree, or you got it? Okay. Anyone else? I want to take it down. Okay. Who wants pictures of my kid? Okay. I know that's why you guys stayed, okay? Ricky's riveting and all, but I have cute photos. So, Blippi, another carousel photo, okay? He's adorable. Then, let's see. Another photo of my little gorilla. This is the night we got it in the mail, okay? The night. He was like, we put on right now. I'm like, we do. And let's see. What else do I have? Oh, Ricky bought him this stupid dinosaur. Okay? How many of you saw me carrying this dinosaur or Ricky carrying it at AIC? Did anyone see that? Did anyone see me punt it down the stairs? I did. Because I was trying to prevent him from falling, and my go-to move was get it down the stairs, and then he can go after it. So I literally just stood there and punted this thing, and she was like, I can't believe you just punted that. And I'm like, I would much rather be down there and then him just go after it instead of him fall down 2 flights of stairs with a little bouncy dinosaur. And that was a very forced smile, as you can tell. Aunt Ricky asked for a photo, and so he was, yeah. So, let's see, I only have one more. Oh, he's talented. If you can't see this, he is holding a play screwdriver between his toes. So he's kind of monkey-like, so I totally get it, and one night I'm like, why are we doing this? And he held it there for like 15 minutes. I was like, that's a talent, I guess. So, he's cute. My husband told me that this morning he is just running around the house calling for me, and it kind of hurt my heart, and he goes, would you like me to lie to you? And I was like, no, but it still hurts. Yeah, I'm like, tell me on my drive home. But last night I was FaceTiming him and I said, do you want to go trick-or-treating with Mama? And he's like, uh-huh. And I said, you have one more sleep and then we can go get candy. And he's like, uh-huh. And I was like, I'll be a banana. And he goes, I gorilla. And I was like, yes, we will go do the things. So we're very excited, obviously, to have conference over too. So it's not just you guys, okay? We're ready to go home too. But to do my last presentation before Q&A, I want to talk about end-of-year processes and procedures. Oh, look, there's Paul. He's with us. Okay, so we talked about these things yesterday, specifically negative fund balances and dormant funds. I wanted to put the information on slides, but I was hoping after talking yesterday, I heard some of you going, well, we were thinking about our processes and procedures as we were talking about repeat comments, okay? But I was just wondering, is there anyone that wants to tell me at the end of the year, do you guys have a process or procedure in place to look at negative funds or dormant funds? You can do it by a raise of hands. Like, does anyone have anything for negative funds? Okay, you guys do. Do you guys have something for dormant funds? Do we have anyone? Or do you guys just go, when I get time, I look at them? Kathy's like, no. Yeah, Kathy, that's the answer. She's like, we don't do that at all, actually. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it's just one thing I want you guys to think about because, again, the negative fund balances, those are repeat comments. That's why I wanted to bring it up because some of you might not have processes and procedures in place. How many have like an end of year checklist? Is anyone that like, I have a checklist and I follow it? Of course, Paula raises her hand. Okay, we got some hands back here. You guys have end of year checklists. Does it include dormant funds and negative funds, or is that just something that you go, oh, I look at that anyway? Okay. So I just want you guys to think about things that maybe we could modify in our process at the end of the year to maybe correct some of our repeat comments. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation. Is there anyone that wants to share their process over negative funds or dormant funds? Is there anyone that wants to openly talk about it, or do you guys just want me to keep going? You guys are like, oh, we're ready to go home. Okay, I get that. Okay, that's fine. You don't have to, but I wanted to just get your minds thinking about it, okay? Because, again, they're repeat comments, and they continue to be a problem. So we need to correct something to try and stop it from happening, okay? Okay, end of year reports. 100 are due on or before January 31st. We talked about AFR deadline, 60 days after the close of the year, and annual engagement uploads. The only reason I wanted to include this in end of year procedures is because we have new auditors. If you don't know you have something due, how are you going to know to do it? So again, if you have those checklists, how many of you that have the checklist inherited end of year procedures from your predecessor? Or did you guys, okay, Deb, raise her hand, but sometimes, how many of you were the ones that actually created it because it was chaos your first year and you were like, I don't know what I'm doing. There's so many deadlines. I need to make a list of everything I need to do. I know some of you guys set calendar reminders. How many of you set calendar reminders for these things? Okay, that's a good way to do that, to remind you to do something, say it's due in so many days. But I really wanted to make this slide for the new people that, again, you don't know what you don't know, okay? So let's go into each report and kind of talk about some of these things. So the 100R, so it's compensation. So we need to, the easiest way I wanted to come from this presentation by saying, this is everything you're going to need on a slide to have prepared before you go do that report. Because if you go in to do that report, but you don't have these materials together, how are you going to finish it? And I know most of you just upload your 100R information, correct? Is there anyone that actually like manually enters by line? No? Okay. It's an upload. But we need to make sure, because 100R information is looked at all the time. Citizens use it, people at the counties, at other political subdivisions, they look at that information. We pull that information, we look at it to see employees, things like that. So I listed the information that you will need for the 100R. This is all pulled from, how many of you guys know that we have user guides for all of our gateway applications? Okay, this is all out of there because we already have like a frequently asked questions section in those user guides. So if you have questions while you're going through it, you can pull that up, and one of the very first questions is, what do I need to prepare this report? Okay, so that's kind of where I pulled this. You will need information. So list of those employees that work during the year, the business address, job title, and total compensation. This should include all employees. So we're talking those seasonal employees, full-time, part-time, anyone who received compensation during the year. Sometimes everyone's like, well, at the end of the year they weren't here. Well, no, I need everybody that you paid compensation for. That's what that report is looking for. It's compensation paid to individuals from your entity, okay? And the new section that was added a couple years ago was which employee's compensation was fully paid or partially paid and funded by donation funds. This is kind of a newer one, but there's like another box off to the side next to the employee if they were paid with donation funds, okay? So we need to make sure that that information is filled out in entirety. We've talked about the AFR so much, so I'm not going to go into it in detail because it's a lot, okay? But there is a frequently asked question in that says, what are all the things that I need? So what I tried to do is I tried to pull it by, make it into sections of the AFR, and then what type of documents you might need. So if this is your first year filling out the AFR, or second year, and you're like, I forget all the documents I looked for. I just wanted to put them on. It's on 2 slides. So this one deals with financial data, and then the other slide deals with entity and official information, and then federal reporting information. So I tried to make it separate for you guys, just as a resource. But again, the AFR comments, there's so many repeats. So what are we doing at the end of the year to make sure everything is correct to the best of our ability? Because remember, when you guys submit that AFR, do any of you ever read that disclaimer? Because it's like, I certify that everything in this report is true and correct to the best of my ability. When you are clicking submit, that's what you're saying. You're like, I think I've gotten everything. It's okay if you don't. Like Ricky said, when we give you guys the Form 13 and we come in to audit, and if you guys feel like you have forgotten something, that's the time to say, hey, I forgot something. Let me correct my financial statements and give them to you. We can always make adjustments after the fact. However, those will appear in those comments that we had to make adjustments because they were material to the financial statements. So we just want to make sure that we're getting everything in there, and we're making sure we have good processes and procedures in place, okay? Annual uploads. So since 2018, when we had to start doing these uploads, is this something that's included in your end of year checklist? Is making sure that these uploads get up there? Yes, Stacy, we have an internal control for that. Yes, okay, thank you. One of you. Gosh, you guys are killing me here. Okay, I will say, I want to clarify some stuff. So with the annual uploads, so the first one says Excel data capture. So that's just an upload of all Excel data that you have from your financial system dumped. So I'm talking all revenues and expenditures in one giant report, okay? If you do that, you do not have to do the next 2 bullet points, the detail of receipts by fund and account, or the detail of disbursements by fund and account. Okay? So you either do the data dump, or you do 2 separate uploads for revenues and disbursements, okay? You don't have to do both. You just have to do the Excel data dump with everything in it, or revenues and expenditures separately, okay? I know the wording is kind of odd that makes it sound like you need to have it all, like both of those uploaded, but we really just need one of those options. Either you give us everything or you split it by revenues and disbursements, okay? And I know that sometimes the Excel data dump can be a very large file, and there are some file limitations with Gateway. So again, you guys decide, but you don't have to do both. I think that's kind of some questions that we've had a lot of the time. Two of the other things that are not being uploaded annually in the repeat comments are the annual vendor history report or personnel policy. And so it's just important that you upload those files. We do use the vendor history reports, and the personnel policies are very helpful to have. And some of you might say, my personnel policy is huge. Okay, if it's huge, then take out the section that we need regarding leave time, comp time, how overtime is accrued, really how you guys accrue and earn time. Anything that's specific to your county, that's what we're looking for personnel policies, okay? Anything that designates you guys might do something differently from another county, or in your personnel policies, if you have longevity in there, or if you have any matrices for like pay or anything that goes into your personnel policy. What we're really looking for is, because some people are like, you want my whole personnel policy? If the file's too big, you can split it up and do separate uploads if you want to give me the whole thing. If you want to upload just the time regarding your like leave time and everything like that and how overtime's paid out, you can print PDF that section and upload that section. But a lot of people are just not uploading it and saying, oh, when they come in, they can just ask for it. Well, per state examiner directive, it needs to be uploaded, okay? So that's why you're getting the comments if you're not uploading those files. I'm trying to think. There's only a couple comments that said that salary ordinances weren't uploaded. And I would like to stress for salary ordinances, how many of you amend your salary ordinance like every time council meets? Okay, when that's happening, we need the amended salary ordinances, okay? If you only upload the one that was approved at the beginning of the year and we start auditing, but you've amended it 12 times since then, and we pull a payroll from the 11th time that you amended it, it's not going to match probably your first approved salary ordinance, okay? So we really need all amendments to the salary ordinance uploaded, because it just creates a problem. Because let's say we have an FE that's testing it and they don't ask the question that have you amended it, and they just make the assumption that you haven't amended it at all, and this is just the salary ordinance. Well, let's say they do the testing. Oh, well, what the salary ordinance says versus what you're paying them isn't right. What if the FE doesn't come to you and at exit they don't go talk to payroll and it becomes a comment, and then you're like, whoa, well, we had amended salary ordinances. Well, why weren't they uploaded it? Why, our FE should have asked those questions, but sometimes we already do the audit work. They forget to ask the question if you have amended your salary ordinance. So it's just really important that information is there. Or if you've amended so many and you're like, it's a lot of files, come see me or something like that. Or if you upload them all at the end of the year and be like, these are all the amendments we've made. You just somehow need to make sure that the field examiners know if there are lots of amendments, where the amendments are, what they look like, and everything like that. So that's a place you can upload as many uploads as you want under that salary ordinance section, okay? It's not like you get one upload and you're done. You can upload multiple files. We talked about the supplemental AFR. I'm assuming this is in your guys' end of year processes to make sure that you get those supplementals in so you can add them to your financial statements. I just wanted to include on there kind of like hey, if you just need to remember who maintains ledgers outside of the auditor's office. So I just gave you guys like a list that we talk about normally. The treasurer is included in that list. You need to make sure that you have, yes, Paula, I don't know where Ricky went. Can you yell? Okay. I think I was saying treasurer, right? Okay, treasurer. They are included in this, and they need to include after settlement collections, because remember, they are holding those on the cash book. You do not know what they're holding over there. So they need to make sure that they submit a supplemental with the after settlement collections, okay? I feel that there has been some issues with the numbers that the treasurer is reporting. So this is what we would recommend. When you get those supplementals, how many of you go back and check the prior ending balance for what that supplemental was? Okay, so you guys do that. Okay, so you go back and you check that. If there's no discrepancy, continue on with your merry day, okay? Everything looks fine. The prior ending matches the current beginning, and it all works out. The math works, receipts, expenditures, ending balance, okay? That all makes sense. However, let's say that the prior ending and the current beginning don't match. The question is, what is your guys' responsibility? Lots of you have asked, like, do I need them to submit the ledgers to me and I do like a mini audit and see that everything ticks and ties? No. It's not, they don't need to submit the supporting documentation. However, if you notice that the prior ending doesn't match the current beginning, or the numbers are way too high, you can ask questions. We encourage questions. We love questions. Ask the questions. Be like, hey, are we sure that these numbers are correct? Okay, because you have a department head or an elected official submitting this information to you, and they are saying, this is what I maintained and I used to prepare from my ledgers to make this supplemental AFR, okay? They are certifying that those numbers are correct when they're giving them to you. But it is your job to say, no, the prior ending, current beginning don't match. which one's right, because remember, if you have an audit report where we audited those balances as of like 12/31/24, so those of you that are up to date, so when 1/1/25 hits, when you get your supplementals, you have an audited number to look at what they give you. During audit, we look at the supplementals. We verify those when we're verifying the financial statements, okay? So we have looked at what 12/31/24 should be if you have an up-to-date audit, okay? So if you have an audit that's done, verified financials, and you have a number that you can rely on, and that new supplemental doesn't look correct, you are allowed to go back and ask those questions, okay? I want to encourage you to ask those questions. Don't just slap them in there, because the second, if you go in and you change that beginning balance, when we come into audit, we always look at prior ending to current beginning, and we're going to ask the question, why are they different? And if you guys just say, well, I just put the number in, it's what they gave me, you're allowed to ask questions if it's not adding up. Paula, did I answer your question? Nope. Okay. No, you're fine. You're fine.
Real fast.
That have their own bank accounts, do I need supplementals from them?
But do they
the health
have their
department?
own bank accounts, and they turn in a report of collections
Yeah.
to you every single day?
Yeah, they turn it in every month. I have a monthly report of collections from like 5 different departments.
So like recorders, no. Health department, no.
Okay.
It's those that maintain them outside. So, but because whenever they're turning in the report of collections to you every single month, you're putting it on the county's ledgers.
Okay, just making sure, because we asked for some, and I'm like, I've never asked for that before. So there's a confusion with, new position, new, person. So I just want to make sure we're doing what we need to do and not asking for extra work.
Yeah, I get that.
Perfect. Oh, seriously?
Oh, I was like, where?
At least I have better shoes on today.
You do.
Otherwise, I'd been like, I should have.
We should have had purse show and tell.
So I have a question on the Tourism Commission, because 5 or 6 years ago, I had to provide proof how the Tourism Commission Visitors Bureau was kind of like one and the same. Mm-hmm. And that was a topic that we discussed several times. But in my 7 years, I have never received anything from the Tourism Commission as far as supplementals. So am I supposed to be requesting that? Or is, because of the agreement with the Visitors Bureau, is that really not something I'm supposed to ask for?
Ricky, I'm going to let you take that one. This is like her thing, okay?
She's gonna answer
And I'm going to answer it wrong, so I'm just going to let Ricky say it.
Okay, so Tourism Commission is up here, but it is not necessarily 100% across the board. The only time a Tourism Commission will turn in a supplemental AFR is if they are holding the money. You are only authorized to give the commission the money, okay? Now, if they're going to be holding all of that, that's outside, they have to give you a supplemental to include. If you're holding all the money, the commission's entered into an agreement with the Bureau, and then you're giving the Bureau the money for the agreement, that's not going to need a supplemental AFR because you've given it to another entity. Okay, so there's like 5,000 ways a tourism commission can work. So if you have a tourism commission that maintains their own bank account, their own records outside of yours, they have to turn in a supplemental AFR. Okay? If you don't know, call me, because I have a whole spreadsheet on every single one of you so that I know how your county works, what statute applies to you for innkeepers, and it's every one of them is different. Yeah. Okay, let's talk. Yeah, good. Okay.
She could talk about commission, tourism all day too. So, any other questions? Not about tourism for me, please. My brain hurts. Okay. I wanted to talk about encumbrances because it's always a hot topic. Okay, how many of you guys actually encumber funds? You choose to. Okay. So, again, we're getting towards the end of the year, and so we wanted to talk about who has end-of-year procedures for encumbering funds. Okay. It's because, again, it's really, if you're new and you're like, what is encumbering? It's really just an accounting mechanism to hold over a portion of those monies for the next year. If your county does not encumber, that's fine. You're just appropriating the funds that you need for next year, okay? It's really if you choose to do it or not. Sometimes encumbrances are overwhelming and it's a lot of moving pieces, but it's okay. So, they are encumbrances, so they need to be approved by council, must have an underlying reason, and I included the reasons on here. Surprise, we have a bulletin article on this, okay? So if you have additional questions on encumbrances, you can email, you can reach out to us, but I think something that a lot of your departments sometimes tend to panic about at the end of the year is, I haven't spent all of my appropriation. That's okay. You're not required to spend all of your appropriation. The money doesn't just disappear. It doesn't dissipate, but they freak out and they think that it does. So I don't know the best way to explain to them. It's like, you don't have to spend all your money. You just have an appropriation. This is what we budgeted for. But some are in fear that if they don't spend what was appropriated, council won't give them that next year. Okay. That's a big fear that they have, but the money doesn't go anywhere. Okay. It still stays in whatever fund is being used. Again, general fund, everyone is like, well, I need my piece of that. So, again, if you guys do encumbrances, your department heads are typically the ones that will either reach out to you guys or will come directly to us with encumbrance questions, whether something can be encumbered or not. So it's a very common thing that we get at the end of the year in early January. Okay, internal controls. Again, I can't have a presentation without saying it, so I'm just going to talk about it. With those end of year processes and procedures, those are your internal controls. What internal controls do you have in place to make sure that everything is getting done at the end of the year that needs to get done? Okay. Oh, there's music playing. I don't know where that came from, but that was fun. So again, I always encourage, have a checklist, have your process and procedures in writing so you make sure you don't miss anything. Okay. But that is all that I have. Does anyone have questions? I'm going to throw up the QR code just in case anybody hasn't scanned it. And do you guys want to take like a quick break and then do Q&A? Or do you want to power through?
We don't have a ton, so just FYI. A couple things that we wanted to talk about was, let me pull it up real quick, or at least I had it up. Is it up? So, okay, first things first, Stacy mentioned that Chapter 1 had been updated and up on the website. There is a couple things that she mentioned were changes, and I want to talk about them because I guarantee there's going to be 1,000 questions on it. There it is. There were several things that changed within it, but a couple, we clarified some information. There it is. Okay. We have changed the format of the manual to just a little bit, so it's organized just a little bit differently when you go in. All right, so we have updated the section on record of time worked. I think it used to be called record of hours worked. In this, we are trying to, we've always had this position. This is just what's going to back up our position. All right, so what we're saying is all political subdivision employees, we have this separated. So the first part is all political subdivision employees except judicial circuit employees, because we're going to talk about them next. Okay, so anybody who is not a prosecutor's office employee, a probation officer employee, or part of the courts. Okay, those are your three. All right, they have to maintain records of hours worked per pay period. Just like always, they have to have time records. The only exception is the elected official. Okay, so, and there must be someone who's knowledgeable approve their timesheet. Okay, all right, that has not changed. When we start talking about judicial circuit employees, again, courts, prosecutor, probation, they are also required to maintain time records, okay? But, there's a but. So, you guys need to have a time reporting policy. They can have their own time reporting policy, okay? They can maintain their own records and do all of that. If they choose not to have a time reporting policy, then they will default back to the counties, okay? It doesn't fall on you or anything like that if they're not in agreement with their policy, okay? It'll be them. Okay, make sure I got all this right. They still have to do everything that, for the non-exempt employees, they still have to do all of the time, all that. They still have to submit a payroll claim to you, okay? You can't pay them without a claim to audit, okay? But they don't necessarily have to turn in their timesheets. If you have a great relationship and they want to turn those in, that's great, okay? But they are not required to. Okay. The other thing that we added that I want to pull is that we also put the elected officials exemption in there too, is the leave and overtime policy. So we added the same thing for judicial in there too, the judicial circuit. They can have their own leave and overtime policy separate from yours. They always have had it, we're just putting it in writing, okay? If they don't, they default to yours, okay? But courts, prosecutors, probation, okay? They're just a little bit different than you. Any questions on that? We just gave this to the HR people too, like a month ago at AIC. So if you have an HR department, they're already aware that this is out there. Okay, any questions? I don't remember. Oh, I wrote HR. I just wanted to remember it. Okay, so let's hit this. Honestly, I think we have like maybe 15 questions. Okay, so it's not that bad. All right. Okay, pull that up. All right, so first question here is, why are weed liens not being recorded? Is there a particular reason these liens aren't being recorded with the recorder's office, or is this step handled differently for this type of lien? Okay, so weed liens are not required by statute to be recorded at the recorder's office, which is why they are not. And that's about the best answer I can give you on that. I don't know if that person's still here, if they have any other additional questions. Okay. All right, can liens be submitted to the auditor's office at any time, or is there a specific reason they are accumulated and submitted in batches? I'm wondering if this is due to internal processes. This one's a tough one because liens are a little bit different depending on what they are. So for example, if you've got sewer liens out there, those should be happening at the time, right? As soon as somebody has been notified that we're going to put a lien on your property, they should be able to come up to the county and pay it immediately. Right, so holding that into a batch doesn't make sense for me. If it's a lien that's going to go on like the property tax type thing, they might hold that off for a few, but there's no real rules that says that they have to do them in batches. The only one that's the main one that I can think of is the sewer one that needs to be available immediately for payment. Okay, so if something's becoming a problem or a holdup, I would start talking to the unit about it, about why they're holding that. Okay. This one talks about abatements in the future. If a company files today for an abatement, would that exemption be available to them? The current abatement still be available in the way with all the changes going on with the exemptions. This one's a hard one to answer because there has to be an agreement, and that agreement should state when that abatement takes place. So without knowing what that agreement says, I can't really answer that question. But if you want to get with us and talk to us through it, we can give you a better answer. Does innkeeper tax have to go straight to support the tourism of the county? This has kind of been a hot topic here too lately. So innkeeper, not everybody has their own statute in innkeeper, but they primarily all say the same thing. But I'm only going to use the uniform one because that applies to most. It says in statute that it may be expended only to promote and encourage convention, visitors, and tourism within the county. That is it. Okay? I know that there's been some thoughts about using it for a few other things. And so if you have questions about that, give us a call and we can tell you our position on those individual items. Do we have any questions about dormant funds since Stacy went over it yesterday? Or can I skip this question? Anybody? Okay.
Give us a skip.
Just say skip. Just say skip. All right. Okay, this one was about food and beverage. Is there any question on who is responsible for reporting the food and beverage? Everybody knows who it is, right? Raise your hand if you think you are responsible for it. Everybody should be raising their hand. Everybody in the room should be raising their hand. Well, if you don't have it, then you're not.
You're allowed to keep your hand down.
All right, those are the only exceptions.
If you get it, it's your responsibility.
That's right, just know. Okay. All right, so this question says, what would we do, or what should we do with our salary ordinance? Should it be recorded? Should it be posted on our website? We have always guarded it, giving it out only when requested. What should we be doing with it? I'm unaware of any requirements for posting this, although it is a public document. Okay, it is prepared, it is approved in a public meeting. If somebody wants to look at it, they should be able to look at it. You got to also remember that you submit a 100R every single year with everybody's salaries that's on the website for everybody to see. So I'm not sure I understand why trying to kind of keep that under lock and key. Okay. If you have additional questions about it, let me know.
Yeah, the only thing I could think is if you had like sensitive information, and then I would say don't put that on there.
Don't put it on the ordinance.
Don't put it on
your Social Security
Do not
number.
put it on the ordinance. So yes, that would be secretive and keep that, but
Yeah. Okay. This question was, they basically are asking if they can move. There's a fund 4905, which was Governor's Drug Free Indiana. Said it was changed under Mitch Daniels and wanted to know if any of the remaining funds could be transferred to the Drug Free Community Fund 1148. I had no idea what this was. So I had to go and like dig way back in the records. And so I actually had to go talk to Lori because she's her history person. I said, I don't know what this fund is. We believe that it's the same program, just a different name. So if you still have the 4905 Governor Drug Free Indiana Fund, and you want to put that into the Drug Free Community Fund, you want to close out the one into the other, you can. It's the same program, same use. Okay? Probably should have been done a while ago.
oh, yes.
4905, 1148. 1148 is the current number. Okay. This comes back with prosecutors. If the prosecutors are employees of the county and must maintain timesheets, does the auditor have the authority to audit those timesheets, or do we wait until SBOA does their annual audit? Again, they are required to keep timesheets or time records, okay, however they want to keep them. It could be an Excel sheet for them. We don't necessarily care how they track those hours and how they are. No, there's nothing that you can audit against them. I mean, I know that sometimes we think we know what everybody's schedule is, but you're busy keeping track of the employees in your office. There is, any timesheet has to be signed by somebody who knows what the hours that were worked. I don't see how an auditor can know the hours worked in all the other departments and trying to audit those timesheets, right? You're auditing the payroll claim. Statute says you have to audit the claim for certain things in order to make a payment. It does not say you audit the timesheets, okay? They have to have them for audit, and when we come in, if there's a problem, we'll address it then, okay? Does that help? Okay. Nope, not that one. Oh, okay. Are auditors required to supply access of the financial software to either commissioners or council members, or can they just supply reports requested? I think the fear in this is that the information could be misused from the financial system for political reasons and might misrepresent facts related to any specific vendor. So they're wanting to know what control they have over this. All right. Commissioners and council, really anybody, shouldn't have access to your financial software where they can make changes, okay? But they do need to know what's happening, okay? Whether that's reports and whether that's giving them read-only access to your financial data is a county decision. Okay, there's nothing that governs that. The only thing we can tell you is you will have a control issue if they can actually make changes. Okay, so by giving them read-only access, does make it a little bit easier for you because you don't have to go in and print out whatever reports they need. But just remember, no matter what you give them, you can't control what they say and what they do. All you can do is make sure that your system is secure in what is being input in. Okay, so that if something happens, you can say, oh, here's the report of what actually happened. Okay? I don't want to talk about election payroll, guys.
Why not?
All right, so with elections around the corner, highlight any changes coming up. Election workers paid through a claim versus payroll and who keeps track of it. What if the same worker who works in May and then in November is over $600, do the funds go through payroll? Okay.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
I want to, while you gather your thoughts on this. Okay, so how many of you were here when we did the auditor and clerk virtual payroll? Okay. They want to do that again this 2026. Do we feel that that is a good thing and you guys would love to be a part of the conversation again so that we can get both clerks and auditors in the same meeting, hearing the same information at the exact same time? With the raise of hands, do we want this? Okay, we want this. And from that question, it just makes me feel we need to go all the way back down to the basics like we did the very first time and talk about it from there and do something similar and because last time we did a presentation with the basics, with the information, then the second presentation was a Q&A. Do we like how we did that last time, or do we think we need to go back down to the basics more and do how do you guys have any thoughts on that? Because this question makes me feel like we need to go back to the basics, do the first presentation again. Obviously, we have some new auditors. I don't know, do we have new clerks? Do we have that many new clerks? We have some new clerks. And do it all over again. What are your guys' thoughts on that? All over again? Okay.
They do. Things do change.
Clear direction. Because did you guys find, so when we did the Q&A, we gave you guys a flow chart. Do you guys know where that flow chart is on our website and know how to access it? Because Ricky and I, after talking about it, we'll go through the flow chart again. I think that's a good resource that we came up with after the first presentation. So we'll work that in this one. But I'm just trying to think of, do you guys think there's anything else? Do you feel like after having it, you and your clerk worked more closely together with that? Okay, there's some no shaking of
And I
heads.
think that comes with they are afraid they can't get people to work the polls based on this. And I think with the new legislative change that occurred, that if an employee from the county wants to go work, you will pay them a day off and they will get their election pay. Will help in some of this, with that new legislative change. So hopefully that will change some of it. Okay, so we can put that down.
Yeah, do we feel, yeah, Deb?
Election pay. No, it's for any county employee.
Yes.
Yes, in any office.
Yes.
And yes, they must be paid a day off and they get their election pay. It is just an incentive to get more people to help out with the election. So I'm hoping that that's going to kind of relieve their stresses and fears. You know, they're just trying to make sure that everybody gets what they need, right? And I understand that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They'll get their holiday,
Yes.
yeah.
That's fine, yeah. For their election work.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's really for those people who don't have it as a holiday.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk here.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let me answer this question. There have been no other changes made, okay? So when we're talking about doing payroll of the employees, we're going to break them up into two different people. We're going to talk about your non-employees first. They do not work for the county right now, okay? These are the people we're talking about. So either, Joe Smith off the street, okay? If, and again, you're going to have to think about it for the year. You can't just think about this first primary. If they're going to work for you at the general election too, you've got to consider both and what they're doing. If you guys think that they are going to make less than $600, they're only going to work the poll, they're going to make less than $600 for the year, then you're going to pay them through a claim. Okay? Because no income tax needs to be withheld, no FICA needs to be withheld, and there are no IRS reporting requirements. Okay? And this chart she was talking about shows all of this. If you look at them and you say, you know what, they're going to make more than that $600, but it's going to be less than the FICA threshold, okay, then you have to pay them through payroll, all right? And the reason you won't be taking any income tax out for it, and you will not be withholding any FICA for it, but if they're going to make more than $600, IRS says they get a W-2. Okay, so running it through your payroll is a way for you to make sure that you get them with your W-2s at the beginning of the year. If you think they are going to make more than the FICA threshold, okay, you are going to run them through payroll. You're not going to take out any income taxes on them. You are going to withhold FICA from them, and you are going to give them a W-2. Okay? Those are only for non-employees. They do not typically work for the county, right? Nothing they do is for county, to work at the election. So now let's switch over to an employee, okay? Someone who works in one of the other offices comes in. It makes no difference what they make. You're going to run them through payroll. The reason that you run them through payroll is no matter what, they're an employee for the county. They have already met the threshold. There is no way around it. Okay, so you're going to run them through payroll. Now, saying that, you are not going to withhold income taxes on that election pay. Okay, because there is no income tax on election pay. But you have to withhold the FICA because they're way over the threshold, and all of that stuff will be reported on the W-2 with their other compensation. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question? Income tax. FICA and everything is still withheld because they're already over that threshold, and you'll issue a W-2. Overtime for like in their other job or? I mean, it depends on, I mean, if it's overtime, it's going to be for their regular work. So it would be done just any other way that their overtime is done, if that makes sense. This, just the election pay is this a little bit different. I saw a hand up over here.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Any other questions on that? Oh, I got right here, Patty. Yep. Yes. That's why it's important to have a relationship with your clerk to talk about what you think it's going to be like. We understand changes happen, right? Someone doesn't come back, somebody shifts into another position. If you paid them in a claim because you thought they were going to be under $600, but in the end they weren't, you have to go back, right, especially if they meet that threshold, and pay from the very first dollar they earned on the FICA. So you may have to adjust payroll at the end, if you're paying payroll for that last one, to include what should have been paid from the first one. No, you can't void it out because they've already cashed it. There's nothing you can do. We're going to have to make an adjustment on the payroll side. So if that happens, call us and we'll talk you through those steps. If they make over the 600, but they're under the threshold, all you have to do is give them a W-2 for the total. So you're going to have to figure out a way to go in and flag those amounts. The only time you're going to make an adjustment through the payroll is if they make over the threshold amount for FICA.
And with the auditors who have done something similar to this, Patty, most vendors will allow you to go in and manually change those W-2s to include all of the income, because you have to change them, because when you start reporting the payroll, it's only going to be from that time after 600. So you're going to have to go in and increase that. And that's what several of the auditors who have done this, and I don't know if any of them are in the room, who have had to do this, they go in and manually fix it. So again, when Ricky's talking about that flag, it's either, well, you flag the employee and you know at the end of the year that you need to pull, this is what I paid in a claim and this is when I started running them through payroll, and make sure that their W-2 includes all of that. And then you have to also make sure, because what she's talking about is with that FICA, you have to go back to that very first dollar on that claim. So you're going to have what's withheld plus a little bit more that first paycheck, because you're trying to get it. So if you don't get it the first time, you still have to go back and say, how much more percentage-wise do I need to take from that very first dollar? And that's why whenever we met with auditors and clerks, we stressed a plan. And that's why I don't know if anyone actually came away from those first couple of trainings going, we had a plan, we sat down, we talked about their employees, if they're employees or if they're going to be over under that threshold and what we're going to do moving forward. Because some of them said that they did sit down and do that. It kind of helped, because this becomes a nightmare for you guys to know which ones to fix.
Yeah, for sure. So it's better to plan it up front than it is. It'd be better just to have one or two, at the end of November versus everybody, right? Because we didn't think about it ahead of time.
But again, if it happens, it's not uncommon to email us. And when you email us, say, this is what happened. This is what I think I need to do. And we can 100% have a phone conversation. I can send you an email and we can talk about the process.
Love it.
We do that we've done that several times.
Love it. Any other questions?
My only question is timing.
No.
Yes, no, I want to ask timing wise. I have them, okay? Timing wise, what month is best for you guys? Is it February? You guys are finishing your AFR. I don't feel like it's February. So is March the best time to have our first election payroll? You guys are kind of not free, but you would have AFR off your plate and can kind of start, and it's enough time before primary, right? Does March feel like? Spring breaks. Okay, so the first couple weeks of March. Okay, so I will send out abstracts due by March 15th. Okay. So I don't know if
We'll just have to pick a date and hope that it works.
Yeah.
But March is going to probably be the best bet. As April starts for us, it becomes conference season, and then we just get slammed.
yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah,
we can-
Deb? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll put that down. I don't have a pen, but we'll put that down. All right. I'm going to go to this one. Do you want to bring up the IGA, and then I'll switch to you in a minute? Over there. IGA. Let me do this MVH question real quick. All right, so this question was, how do you budget between the MVH restricted and the MVH unrestricted? There's been some questions on that, and there's a couple different ways. And I think it just gets confusing because the MVH is one fund, right? And so some people just do it as one fund. They come down with the line items. Here's what we want to use for MVH. That's what they submit to DLGF. It gets approved, and then they allocate as they need between the two sub-funds. Perfectly okay to do so, right? It's one fund. So as long as you are keeping it within the same category, you move it across, go ahead, fine, as long as it's not more than what your approved budget is. Some really want to break it down by the sub-fund, and so they budget each sub-fund for what they need, okay? And when you submit it to DLGF, I still believe you're submitting it as one thing to DLGF, but it doesn't necessarily matter as long as the total for the classifications don't change, okay? Whichever way you want to do it. All right, Stacy is going to show you how to briefly look up an Indiana statute. That was a question that came through.
Yeah, and if you don't want to write down the website, it's in my resources presentation, second to last slide before the thank you slide, okay? So it's iga.in.gov, and there's also a link on our website that will take you here, okay? So if you forget what the website is, it's under resources as well. So to search an IC code, you will click a little search button, and you go, do I search it here? Don't do that. You're going to get confused. Say search Indiana code, then it brings up the title, article, chapter, and section. So which one did you have as an example?
36.
36?
2.
2?
9.
9. Ta-da! That's your guys's. So this is your guys's chapter, and then it breaks it down by sections. So this is kind of like your table of contents, and shows you what each section is. And then once you scroll down, it starts going into each section, okay?
So if you have this bookmarked on your computer and you print out that chart of accounts with the descriptions that we talked about, and you have a question about a fund, you pull out the statute from there, and if you have this bookmarked, you can just enter it into it, and you can find the statute that you need,
Yes.
right? That's going to dictate how you use that fund.
Yep.
Along with other things. And if
Easy
you get real interested, just keep on reading.
Yeah, because if you scroll over here, it has each title, and then as you go into one, Title 36 is local government, and then Article 2 is counties, and then as you scroll down even more, you can see all of the offices. So county executive, I think it's kind of weird on my screen, so. Fiscal body, there's some that are repealed, legislative procedures, fiscal administration. Then it has the chapter and it expands, and then it has each section, but it just goes on forever and eternity.
I don't know about forever. You are really going to live in 36 too for the most part, but this is not the end all be all, right? 36.1 applies to you guys. There's some other, I think 36.7 applies. As you kind of go down, it depends on your topic and what you're looking for. Yeah. If you're talking about property taxes, we got to go up to 6.1.1, right? If you're talking about local income tax, it's 6-3.6. So it depends on what you're wanting to find. But if you have this up, no matter which one you're looking for, you should be able to find it.
Yes.
Is that helpful? Okay. I only have a few more questions. That's it. All right, this question is so funny because I think I've answered it 3 times in emails in the last 2 weeks, so it must be a really hot topic that's coming up. All right, how many of you this is probation funds, your probation user fees. How many of you only have a supplemental adult probation and a supplemental juvenile probation fund? How many of you have those two, but then you also have the adult administrative fund and the juvenile administrative fund? Okay. You should have all 4. Oh, scared there. All right. So the reason that you should have all 4 is if you read into statute, the administrative fund, okay, has a limited use on it. That fee that you collect for administrative is only to be used on salaries. The supplemental can be used to support the program, but that administrative can only be used for salaries. If you put them together, again, we're commingling it, and you cannot decipher what is what, okay? You can't say you didn't use those administrative fees for something that you shouldn't have. So what do we do if we only have the 2 right now? All right, we need to get the others created, okay? You're probably only going to be able to go back 1 year, if that, okay? You'd have to do some due diligence and go back and see if you can see how much you've put in and see if you can see how much maybe was spent on things. If you can document within 1 year, you could move whatever you put in for the year over and start your administrative. If you don't want to do that, then just start it fresh. Okay? I'm not saying that you might not take a compliance finding if it gets looked at an audit, okay? But it's going to be real hard to pull it apart. And if anybody asks and you say, we got to correct it, I couldn't decipher what was what, we just decided to create the fund and start now. So then when you get your probation fees, they need to be telling you, this is how much I collected in administrative so that you can start putting it in the fund. Okay? If you have any other questions with it, let us know. There's a bulletin article we can send you that kind of details a little bit of this out. We can talk it through. It's just funny because that's been a hot topic one. Okay. The county's Economic Development Authority has informed the auditor that for purposes of their grants, they must document audit findings have been corrected. How can the auditor's office document the findings have been resolved? It says, in our verbal response, we discussed how to look up audit reports. Oh, sorry. That was Vicky's response. That's how I got confused. Okay. I'm not really sure what they're meaning here. When I read this, it says it's like the Economic Development Authority is saying, hey, you have to document that they've been corrected. Is whoever wrote this here? Oh, you're here. Okay. So as I'm looking through it, I mean, it doesn't say whether it's federal or it's financial. So is it federal? It's financial. Or you don't know? Okay, so let's just answer it for both. So if you had a financial audit result and comment, okay, and you have done a cap, that is how you're going about notifying whether or not something is corrected. Nothing else needs to be done, okay? If it's federal, right, then you're doing a corrective action plan, right? That's in the report, like we talked about. And then at the next audit, they're going to come back and check to see if you've corrected it. I mean, if they want to know if it's corrected, I mean, they can come talk to you, but I don't know of anything that requires you to notify them that something has been fixed or not. Well, if you want to talk further about it, we can talk after conference. Okay? Okay. All right, I think I've got 3 more, and then we're done. Oh, I was like, oh my gosh, it's afternoon.